Hi there, I'm Stephanie Scott, and I'd like to welcome you to BookTrib's live chat today. Today's guest is international best-selling author Mike Bond, and he's here to talk with us about his latest thriller, The Tibetan Cross. For those who are just learning about the book, Tibetan Cross is one of Mike Bond's socially conscious thrillers based on his own experiences abroad. Mike has been named the master of the existential thriller by the BBC and is one of the 21st century's most exciting authors by the Washington Post. He's always led an active lifestyle in his journalism experience and environmental work. Mike has lived in 30 countries over the course of his career and has hiked 500,000 miles around the world. Before we begin, I want to mention that we'll be giving away copies of The Tibetan Cross, so be sure to sign up at BookTrib and enter to win at the end of the chat. Now, I would like to welcome Mike Bond to our live chat. Thank you, Mike, for joining us today. Let's start off by letting your fans know a little bit more about the books. How would you describe Tibetan Cross? Oh, there's a little bit of a delay.
Very happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. So let's start off with how would you describe Tibetan Cross?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get that. My phone is dying, or my video is dying. Please go ahead again.
Absolutely. How would you describe Tibetan Cross? How would you describe it?
What I wanted to do with that, Stephanie, is I wanted to create a story so exciting that the moment that you pick it up, you can't put it down. I wanted to I had lived a period of my life very extensively, very intensely, and I wanted to transmit that same terror and mystery and joy and excitement to my readers. So that was what was behind it. It starts off in the high Himalayas, where I was back in the day when there weren't many Westerners in the Himalayas, and it's basically the discovery of a nuclear warhead on its way to Tibet. It's a CIA operation, which was actual. It actually happened, and what it ended up is a manhunt basically across the globe, and a love story, which I just wanted to give the intensity of that to my readers.
I have a question from Elise, and she's wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the true story behind Tibetan Cross, and where did you get this idea from?
So I cannot hear a word. I could, if you like, I can answer the question that I thought I heard, but I'm not sure. I just can't hear it.
Yeah. So Elise was wondering if you could describe the true story behind the Tibetan Cross, and describe a little bit more about what influenced you to write the story.
I can't hear a darn thing. So what I can do is I've got a printed question in front of me, and that's all I could really answer. And in fact, I only have half of it. Whether or not with a nuclear weapon, my wife is now trying to help me with this darn sound. We just have no sound at all, and everything is set at maximum.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird.
What I could do, if you want, I can call you guys, and you can give me. I don't mind having a phone in my ear. Let me call you guys, and you give me the questions over the phone. Would that work?
Okay, sounds.
I don't.
I hope.
Hi,
So
this is my phone. I'm
with
looking
us,
for.
we're experiencing some technical difficulties, and we're going to be getting back together. So.
Hi, Meg.
We hope to be back on the air soon. and we will keep you
Okay, and are
posted.
you able to see the questions up above at all? Right now it's showing for Brenna. And if you can't see the whole question, you should be able to just click more, show more, and then you'll see the rest of it. So if you want us just to continue to put it up on the screen there, you can just answer the question. We'll just take step off.
This from Brenna, what do you think would happen if they succeeded in their attempt to annihilate? And that's all I've got. There's no more. But it's really crazy here.
Oh,
And
I know where he's looking.
unfortunately, I don't.
Oh, he's looking down?
Yeah, he's not looking. He's not looking above the screen.
Oh, yeah.
Look up on the top. You see under current topic? All right.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
I've seemed to master writing for the thriller genre. Any plans to take on a new genre? What other type of novels interest me? That's a really good question. I don't like the idea of genres to begin with. I think all novels are thrillers. If they're not a thriller, you don't bother to read the darn thing because it gets too boring, and that's why I don't like James Joyce's Ulysses, because it gets too boring. But even the Bible, you go back to the Odyssey, you go back to the earliest literary examples that we have, and they're all thrillers because they all leave you waiting to see what's going to happen next. But and I find that the greatest novels are pure thrillers, and I'm thinking of such things as War and Peace and the novels of Victor Hugo, Hemingway, many great writers. There's always what has not yet happened that you want to know what's going to happen. But the types of novels that interest me basically are those that are extremely engaging, those that when you pick them up, you can't put them down. I just happened to buy the Nobel Prize winning book by this guy Modiano, who just got the Nobel Prize in France. And the funny thing is, nobody had ever heard of him until he got the Nobel Prize. So I picked up his latest book. I mean, if you have trouble sleeping at night, I urge you to go out and buy it right away because it's boring as hell. And I think that's silly. I think it's silly to have literature that's absolutely so boring that it puts you to sleep. I think what readers look for in life is action, excitement, and delving into the mystery of life, not some fiddling on insanely about one's own personal problems, etc. So that's a long-winded answer for which I apologize.
Oh,
Okay, now I'm going back to the phone. Are you there, Mackenzie?
yeah, I'm here. Do you see this on the top? It says current topic, and you're just gonna keep building the questions from the top like that.
I'll bail out of this. We don't need to talk anymore.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
Okay,
Okay, the next question is, what would have happened if they had succeeded in their attempt to annihilate the entire Tibetan culture? And this is in the book Tibetan Cross that we're talking about, and it's set, as I said, it begins with the Chinese invasion of Tibet, which was absolutely tragic. And the Chinese did indeed attempt to annihilate the Tibetan culture. They wiped out they burned to the ground over 1,000 monasteries. They destroyed thousands of beautiful sacred texts. They killed monks. They displaced over 1 million people. They tried to institute the Chinese language instead of the Tibetan one, and they began the massive environmental destruction of Tibet. So they have already succeeded largely, the Chinese have, in turning the world into a Chinese drone, at least in Tibet. And that's one of the underlying themes of Tibetan Cross.
And
there's one.
The next question is, you're a leader in the fight against industrial wind turbines. Can you talk a little bit more about drew you to this area and what you're working on now to battle this growing concern? Well, what got me involved in the battle against industrial wind turbines is when I was living on the island of Molokai in Hawaii, which then National Geographic has rated the 6th most beautiful island in the world, and they were going to cover it with wind turbines 500 feet tall, run a cable, a high-power cable through the whale sanctuary to Oahu so that we could continue to freeze all of the tourists with air conditioning that they flew so far to Hawaii to avoid. Anyway, it was a huge scam involving a Democratic governor who has since been thrown out of the office, and a bunch of extremely crooked energy companies and a lot of very wealthy and crooked investment banks. But it was stopped, and the reason why it's so important to fight wind turbines is that they don't do anything for greenhouse warming. They don't reduce, they do not in any way reduce fossil fuel use or greenhouse gas emissions, because wind is so erratic that a wind turbine produces a very small amount of power, and it needs to be backed up constantly by fossil fuel plants to even out the load. In countries that have invested heavily in wind power, it's very interesting to note that their coal purchases have almost doubled since then. They're forced to buy enormous amounts of coal to run the turbine, to run the fossil fuel plants to keep the wind turbines at a flat level of production. So right now I'm working on a book about the same thing in Maine, where all of the New England states have ganged up on Maine and are filling Maine with thousands of wind turbines, which again will do absolutely nothing for global warming, but has made billions of dollars for, out of taxpayer money, billions of dollars for energy companies, investment banks. Of course, they're paying off all of the politicians and all of the fake environmental groups that are pushing wind power. What we need instead is solar power on everybody's roof. We need to get rid of these batteries. They're dinosaurs. It's time to get rid of them. So anyway, that's my view on that. Wow. So the next, Zach has asked, you've hiked a lot in your lifetime, more than 50,000 miles. What are some of your favorite physical activities? Well, when I was younger, a little younger, I used to do a lot more heavy rock climbing and stuff like that. My wife and I do still quite a bit of serious mountain climbing. We're going to be, we just hiked across England 200 miles in 14 days. It's lovely. It's called the Coast to Coast. It's one of the most wonderful hikes in the world, and absolutely transforming. If you're looking for a spiritual renaissance in your own life or your life with someone else, I heartily recommend the Coast to Coast. The time to go is in September, and it's not really in Yorkshire. But there are any number of wonderful hikes around the world. There's thousands of them. The thing to do is to go somewhere for 2 weeks where you're on your own feet and you're not in a vehicle. And I promise you it will change your life. And so that's my favorite physical activity is hiking and mountain climbing. When I was younger, I played a lot of football and basketball, and baseball. But this I don't play so much anymore. I would love to play a good non-Olympic baseball again. The next question that popped up was, what suggestions would you give someone who wants to pursue a career as a war correspondent? Very easy, don't do it. It's just not worth the danger. We're seeing so many correspondents kill these days. We could argue, on the other hand, that being a war correspondent is essential to getting the truth out. Thinking of a place like Syria or Iraq, for that matter, or Lebanon, or anywhere in the Middle East. But my own personal view, having been there myself, having almost lost my life numerous times, it's not worth losing your life. It's certainly not worth losing your life to some outfit like IS, or it's used to be called ISIS. So the latest bandwagon of Islamic medication in the Middle East. You've been a Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate from Montana. What was that experience like, and at what point in time would you consider running for office again? Well, it was a very interesting experience in that I started from way behind. I started against a guy who was a repeated incumbent, a very crooked, a lot of money. He had just managed to insert a bill into law that allowed logging and loading in wilderness areas, which, needless to say, I didn't approve of, and most environmental folks in Montana did not approve of. But what I learned is that, and even back then, is that there is no way to win a political race without becoming a crook. You have to start taking money from all of the people who want things from the government, whether they want a new mine, a new pipeline, or in the case of Obama, whether they want wind turbines everywhere, because that's Obama's big thing, $170 million in contributions from the wind industry in return for, of course, covering the United States with these horrendous bird-killing things that do no good for greenhouse gas emissions. So I learned that it's an extremely, extremely crooked business, and of course it's gotten incredibly worse since then. The moment that you allow corporations to fund politicians, they no longer work for corporations, and that's where the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Congress, and the presidency pure working hacks. So that's what I learned. Oh dear. Do you have any pointers for young people who want to write for a cause? Just keep going. It's difficult as hell. Just keep going. It's almost impossible to get yourself published in any decent way. It isn't worth risking your life by going off to Syria to write about something. I think what has to happen, that all writing has to be a search for the mystery of life, a search to unfold or discover the mystery of life, which is, of course, infinite in itself. So I would ask everyone who, and I believe everyone should write, but I think it should be, for the discovery of oneself in the world and learning to be a better person. Because causes go on and never get solved. What's the difference between writing a book and writing a story for a newspaper? Well, writing a book takes months out of your time. It gives you nightmares. If you do as I do, if you write about your own personal life or what you've done, particularly where you've been in nasty parts of the world, you get all those nightmares back. And for instance, I'm writing the conclusion of a book now about ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq, and these absolute Islamic madmen. And when you get inside them, and I know a bunch of them, when you get inside them in their heads, then they come inside your head, and they make your life really difficult. But for you to understand them, they have to be in your head too. So that's the difference between writing a book and writing for a newspaper. When you're writing for a newspaper, you just got to stay on the facts. What has been the most rewarding thing about being a human rights journalist? And that's very easy. You're hoping and trying in every way you can to lessen the toll of misery and death and torture. If you can do, how many of the lives you can save when you've seen so many people you care about, wonderful people who had a lot to give the world, who were massacred by right-wing dictators, in many cases backed by the CIA, unfortunately. If you can save some of them, if you can help to bring peace, whether it's the situation between Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians completely off the charts. I mean, those people will not, all they want is to destroy every last Israeli. There's no middle ground. So if you can try to convey that, if you can convey the truth about a situation, a military situation, a human rights situation, do I have a place that I go to write or a place that really inspires you? Well, obviously France. France is my second home, or one that calls it a big home, the home of one's heart. And I always write best in France. I can't think of, I've written on mountaintops, I've written in caves, I've written all over the world. But I do think overall that France is the best place to write. But you have to sit down and be honest with yourself and let yourself go and go deep. Like, I love that old football term I used to love when I was quarterback. I would say to one of my receivers, I would say, go deep. And, but that's what writers do, we go deep. We have to, and we pass that on to our readers, who also go deep. It's a yin-yang thing, readers and writers. If I was stranded on an island with what 3 items do you think I'd need to help get you, let's see, get me off the island? Ooh, maybe I like to be on that island. I mean, you could be funny and say helicopter would work, but, and if you were stranded on an ocean island, a sea kayak wouldn't do you much good because the ocean waves are too big. I think I might be quite happy to stay on the island if I had my wife, or or other, if I had my wife with me, for instance, my kids. Well, that's more than 3 points. I would just say to get off the bloody island. I mean, you have to know what level of industrial development you're on. I mean, you're allowed a birch bark. I mean, like the Polynesians with their log rafts, or are we talking something more modern? And I like being stranded on an island, so I wouldn't be in any area of need. Next question was, if any of your novels were adapted into movie, would you want to be part of converting it to screen? That's a tough question because we're looking at that right now in a couple of books. I think you have to let the movie be its own person to create its own life, but at the same time, you want to be careful with your message. The truth that you're trying to pass on to your readers isn't that banalized, that's probably not a word, made banal by, or controverted entirely by the movie. I mean, you could have a deep thriller such as I like to try to write about horrible and exciting and mysterious lifestyles in the Middle East, and people fighting to survive and fighting to love each other and trying to understand life. And yet, then you sell it to some movie producer, and she or he turns it into some Disney idea about the Middle East. You wouldn't want that. So I would want to be part of it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the next question is, do I have another book in the works? If so, tell more about it. I got a couple of books. One that almost finished, which is the second in the series of the Colonel Hawkins books. The first was Saved in Paradise. And he's an ex-Special Forces guy from Iran and Iraq, and done time in jail in a famous circle, and was a circuit correspondent for circuit magazines in Hawaii, and gets tied up with, in essence, trying to protect the good and defeat the bad. Whether it's a murdered journalist whose murder has gone unavenged, or whether it's a buddy from the Special Forces who's been jailed wrongly for a situation in Maine, and that's where my book is right now. With Colonel Hawkins in Maine, again, fighting for the good and trying to protect those who are perhaps unable to protect themselves. That's a big theme of mine, is speaking for those who can't speak for themselves. And I also am finishing a book on Iran and Iraq against Special Forces, coming right up to the present. And all of the underground, all of the covert and unrevealed stories, like why did G.W. Bush allow Osama bin Laden to escape from Afghanistan in 2005? Why did the United States back out of Afghanistan when they could have changed the government in the way of life? Why did we attack Iraq? Iraq too, when we already knew there were no weapons of mass destruction. What are we going to do now about ISIS, these crazy amputating Islamic fundamentalists, of which the world is full? Whether you look at Palestine, you look at Iraq, you look at Indonesia, they're all over the place, and it's time to consider whether to bring them under control. So those are the kind of things I'm writing about in my next 2 books. But I also have a book, a nonfiction book about wolves, and several others. So more than enough. Yeah, the next question is, I know that your previous work in animals has focused on elephants and wolves. 60 Minutes recently did an article on lion sanctuaries for lions that were raised in pens and zoos as cubs. Could you comment on lion conservation efforts? That's a good question. Basically, the situation and status of lions in Africa today is absolutely catastrophic. They're being hunted down by trophy hunters from the United States. These guys go in and pay $60,000, bring a high-powered rifle and ride around in a jeep till they find a lion eating a kill, and then they shoot it. That's supposed to be courage. So anyway, the situation of the lions are being devastated across West Africa. They're all only place they remain, and it's important to remember that lions initially were as far north in Europe as England, and all the way through to Siberia. And now they've been exterminated in most of their range and remain in small quantities in Africa. So all of our major large mammals are headed for extinction. The elephants, the lions, the tigers. Tigers are closest, leopards are almost there, cheetahs are almost gone. And it's all because of the inherent evil of human beings. So I don't think that in the long run we're going to be able to save much of any gene pool unless we eat them like cattle. We're going to be reduced to a world where there's cattle and cockroaches and rats and humans, so, in terms of mammals. But anyway, that's my opinion about conservation efforts. We need to turn the whole world around and start saving enormous areas of land for animals. I read that you are fluent in Nepali. What other languages have you picked up over the years? My Nepali is never good anymore because I haven't used it anymore. But I used to dream of it. I used to be totally bilingual, as well as in Russian and German. All of my languages, Italian, Spanish, French, all of them, they're far less extensive. My Arabic is lousy anymore. All of them are far less than they used to be because I don't use them anymore. Once you start a language, if I go back to Russia and I'm there 2 weeks, I'm fine back in the language. And language is very good to learn, but the only way to learn it, don't bother going to classes, don't bother buying some computer program. Go to the country and watch the soap operas, or you can do it on your television now. I guess you can get soap operas from Rio or Paris or anywhere. Just put the conversation in the background. Pretty soon, like a baby, you start to pick it up. But always go to the country if you can. Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Sorry for the initial sound program problems, but thank you very much for the invitation.
Hi there, thank you, Mike, for joining us today and for sharing Tibetan Cross with us. We really enjoyed chatting with you, and to all of our live chatters with us, remember to sign up at BookTrib to enter your win to win your copy of Mike's book. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening.